Hi, my name is Helen. This is Ben. This is my husband. We're married. We want to talk about our education experience growing up because Ben was homeschooled all the way here in the United States until college. And yeah, I think that's very interesting.
And this is Helen Bai, or Bai Si Tong, also known as my wife, Helen Guest. She went to public school in China, and then she went to a prestigious college, and then she went to law school here in the US, where I found her and married her. So, tell me about early school, starting in 2006. Was there a lot of studying?
You mean elementary school
Yes.
in China? Yeah. Wait, so elementary school, is it like 5 years here in the US? Do you know?
I believe it's 6. I don't know.
that makes sense. But I don't know.
Elementary, I think it's 4. No, I think it's 5. Maybe 5? It is 5. Yeah, 5th grade, and then you go to middle school.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. But in China, my point is, in China, it's 6 years. And the hours are not super long. The first class is usually around 8, and you're required to be in the classroom around 7:35 or 7:40. And then the last class usually ends around 3:30, but there's usually some sort of activities that you need to stay for, or it's like a compulsory self-studying session around 4:14 or 4:20, and then you get off school. But that's just my experience in Beijing, in the early 2000s. I heard time has maybe gotten longer for little kids now. Like some school doesn't get off till like 5, or like they require the kids to be in the classroom a lot earlier than what it was required of us. So that wasn't too bad. What was elementary school like for you?
Well, it really changed. First, it was very basic. It almost didn't feel like I was in school. I would have lessons with mom in the morning. The thing I hated the most was handwriting practice. She would have me write down words, and that was always very frustrating because I am not good with a pen. And I never quite got how you're supposed to grip it properly. Then we'd have math. We had a little board with little cards, and we'd put the cards in from the to-do pocket to the done pocket as we went to help keep me motivated. And then as I got older, it became more and more of a self-study, especially in high school. When my little brother was in high school, I actually suggested to mom having more in-person lessons, especially for math.
Yeah.
And she took my advice for that.
That's such a good point to get in, like self-study. Because what we really wanted to unpack in this video, in the conversation, is how our experience affected us as human beings when we later on want to do something on our own, or our studying ability. So what on a day-to-day basis, I find Ben, he's like quite slow on a lot of things, but
sloth.
but he is so much more self-disciplined. He's more self-motivated. He doesn't hate things as much as I do, I think. And he's just like very good at keeping up with his own plan. But like that, I feel like my experience in public school in China sort of trained me to not be able to do that. Should I explain that a little?
Please do.
Yeah. So I talked about elementary school, which was not that intense, but then it suddenly became very intense around the second year of middle school. So when you're around like 14, 15 years old, um, the subject physics and chemistry were suddenly added, and biology, and there's just a lot of stress on the high school entrance exam. Is sort of like a mini version of the Gaokao, the college entrance exam.
Now, go further into what the Gaokao is, how important it is, and what studying for it is like.
Yeah, so if you're like just a little bit of familiar with Chinese education system, you probably have heard of Gaokao, because that is the most important exam that you're going to ever take in your life, because that determines which college you go to. And the reason that's important is in China, at least for a very long time, I think it's starting to shift it a little now. Like young people are a little bit of nihilistic about that now, but like for a long time, where you go to college is deemed to be like it will directly affect the trajectory of your entire life, like whether you will have a good career, whether you would be comfortable materially, whether you would earn respect in the society, which is very important, whether you will marry well. Someone went to college wouldn't want someone who didn't, or someone went to like an A-list college wouldn't want someone who went to a B-list. So, and what sounds very scary, but it's like very true, is your whole life. So you take the Gaokao in the end of the last year of high school, right? So the end of your public school career when you're 18. And so everything before that is building up for Gaokao. So you enter school, elementary school at 6. So the entire 12 life of your childhood has that one purpose, which is that one exam. So I know in the US you have like SAT or SAT, yeah, like different type of exams you can take, and additional to that, if you want to go to Ivy League, they require a lot of experience, like your social work or your other hobbies, like your other accomplishment other than that raw score. But that's not the case in China, because there's so many people in China. If you need to read through a application for every single student, there's no enough people, there's no enough resource to do that. So in a way, Gaokao is like the fairest and most efficient and most realistic way. But that again also makes it very scary, because that's just one exam that you write, that you sit through, and you could very much, have a headache that day or stomach ache. You just don't perform well, and that dictate the rest of your life. But then, yes, you can retake it the next year, but in China, the competition is so extreme that you just don't want to get left behind, and it's like very expensive to take it again, because usually public school doesn't accept students that already took Gaokao and need to retake it. So you need to pay a lot of money to go to like a private school, to hire a private tutor, and not everyone can afford that. And it's just a social stigma too. And you just feel mentally defeated if you mess that up once. So most people do treat it as a one-time deal that determines the fate of the rest of your life.
When you were studying for the Gaokao, what motivated you to keep studying and not just say, look at your phone or look out the window or look at all the funny cracks on your desk?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was just fear, and mostly fear. I would say like 80% of fear on multiple things. There's a general fear of not being able to get a good score, which means not being able to get into a good university, which means everything I just said before, a horrible life leading on. And there's also the fear of disappointing your parents, disappointing your family, breaking their heart, like risking their financial stability to fund your retaking the exam. Or a lot of rich, Chinese family also send their kids abroad, like to the West, America, UK, Australia, to those universities, because those universities is very lenient on accepting Chinese students because they pay a lot of money. That's like a good way to go if your child is not that good in the Chinese public education system, but you have some money. That's actually, what a lot of people did. So that's a fear. And there's also the fear of just losing face in front of your classmates. And like, you have to know that, at least in my experience, ever since the first day of middle school, so we didn't do that in elementary school, but since middle school, every single exam that we ever take, the ranking of the entire class, like and the entire grade, like the entire class of, say, like 2018, like 300 people, would be the rank would be printed out and posted in on the wall of every classroom and on the hallways, like completely public. Your name, your rank, and your score, your individual score. This is how much you got in math, Chinese, English, whatever. And like, you can imagine how stressful that is. And if you are at the bottom of the rank, it's very embarrassing. So that will actually be the 20% I was saying. So 80% is fear for me, and then the 20% is like not want to lose face.
That seems to be 100% fear to me.
Okay, yeah. There's just different variety of fears. So none of it was motivated by genuine, like, love of a subject, or the genuine excitement of, hey, I have a dream college. Say my dream university is Harvard or whatever, UCLA, because blah blah blah. I'm just imagining the vibrant social life there, or the rich academic environment there, and I can't wait to get there. Therefore, I'm motivated to, say, read this book or write this long essay or whatever, right? Like, because then there will be like a good emotion behind it almost, although it's stressful. But in my case, there were nothing like tangible that I'm just like really looking forward to, other than just to not be in the public school system anymore, and most of it just fear in the back of it. So I think that really gets in the way of me right now. Like, even like I was in law school and I'm reading this textbook on, say, criminal law, or contract. Those can be boring, but there's also a lot of very interesting information in it. And I feel like, as a curious human being, I should be able to read it, study it, not just for the final exam, not just because I know there's going to be an exam coming and I care about the ranking. In fact, I despise that idea. So when I was in law school, I don't think I wanted that to be my motivation. I genuinely want to absorb the knowledge. But then I realized I find myself hard to do that, because every time I'm in a section that is like slightly boring, I get this deja vu of being forced to need to study something. And I just sort of zone out, or I just feel like I'm being like re-traumatized again. But a lot of times, like I was telling Ben earlier tonight, I really want to just sit here and read, say, a history book. But again, not everything in a book is gonna be uber exciting. That's gonna hit that, give me that dopamine hit, right? But I think when I was at school, I was like, when I'm not studying, I'm on my phone or watching a show, and I needed that dopamine hit. Because I'm forced to study out of fear. But now the fear is gone. There's nothing like pushing me to study like a slave, and I'm really struggling to get any motivation. I don't know if that makes any sense.
That makes a lot of sense, but there's an exception that I know about it. So what was the worst subject when you took the Gaokao that you performed the worst in? What was it?
I think it was Chinese and English. Like they're like equally not as good.
And what was the best subject?
It was math.
And how much math do you do on a day-to-day basis? Do you love math?
Back then, for studying for Gaokao, I think I would average out like at least 5 hours a day just doing math. And there's like 6 subjects on Gaokao. Like, and the time for English would be 0. Because I already love English, and my English is good. I don't even do the basic English homework. Like, all my time went to math, and I absolutely hated it. But like, there is the joy, like what, this is what I miss, and I feel like I've lost it, but I miss it, but I also hate it. It is, I remember when I was solving a very difficult math question, and again, I'm doing this thing because I'm forced to do it. If I don't have to do it, I would not do it, but I am forced to do it, so okay, let's do it. So when when I really get into it, and I'm starting to get somewhere, and I finally solve this very big puzzle, I get that sense of accomplishment. I get that sense of joy. And also when I'm very concentrated on it and on a good track of solving it, the process itself is oftentimes somewhat enjoyable too. There's like a word for it. It's called, in Mandarin, I heard a lot of like Chinese YouTuber online starting to talk about it. It's called 心流, which means like heart flow. I don't know how to translate in English, but basically it means if you are highly concentrated on doing something and you're going somewhere, you feel like this oneness with this thing that you're doing, and that produces such a sense of joy, and it is like one of the best feeling ever. And I know what they're talking about.
In English, we just call that flow.
Flow, right? Yeah, flow.
Or we could say getting into the flow of things.
Getting into the flow
call
of
it deep
things.
Concentration.
Yes. Yeah, so I have so many experiences like that when doing things that I did not volunteer to do. That's my experience for many years. Because I want to do something voluntarily, like a hobby or whatever, and I can get into the flow. But growing up in the environment that I did, you're sort of not encouraged and not allowed to have hobbies, and at a certain point you convince yourself out of it too, because your life just really needs to be revolved again, like around Gaokao. So I just haven't experienced doing something that is fully of my choice, something that I enjoy, and also experiencing the flow. I just haven't experienced that in such a long time, to an extent that I don't even know how. Like even today, if I'm reading something that is, say, not like a law textbook or not bar prepping related thing, I feel that sense of this is useless. I don't need to do this. Why am I doing this? And in turn, like the thing that I can do for a long time is just like mindlessly scrolling my phone. But I will say another thing that I can do is listen to like long form podcasts. So I don't know what to make of that, but I think that's like one positive thing that I can still do that I'm happy about. But generally, I'm not happy with where I am, like with concentration and motivation.
This seems more common with my friends even here who went to public school, especially the people who complain of ADHD.
Yeah.
Or who take meds to deal with their ADHD.
Yeah.
But I think there's something you've forgotten.
What?
You had a hobby once, one that you applied and went into with flow that you no longer think about.
Oh, you mean English?
Yes, I mean, is your English so good? Are you a spy, Helen?
No.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
You're not here to find out what the geeks are thinking and doing? You're not here to report back to the CCP?
It's really not that interesting what's going on here.
No, it's not. Are you sure about that?
Yes.
You sure I'm just not really good at hiding my secrets? Darn.
Anyway, yeah, English. That's like one thing I took my time but like it wasn't something that I was forced to do. I really wanted to do it because I didn't know what my chance of getting out of China would be, but I wanted to be ready when that chance come. So yeah, I think you're right. There is one positive thing.
How did you study English?
So first of all, like I think we need to talk about the motivation. I think because for me, motivation is like so important. The motivation is to just be able to connect to the English speaking world, really. Because I don't know if people are surprised to hear this, but growing up in the late 2000s and early 2010s in China, especially in big city, we are heavily influenced by American culture, like Hollywood, TV shows, Marvel, like all of that, right? And it just is actually such a big part of what's going on in young people's life and mind that it just makes sense for you to want to be plugged in if you're interested in it. Plus English is already like a mandatory subject in Chinese public school system. And for me, I would say I also my brain got political pretty early on, like around maybe 14, 15. I just feel like the system in China, the society, how everything works, and just the fact that my life revolves around one exam, none of it feels right to me. So early on I wanted to know, okay, how did, say, teenagers my age live outside of China? Like I just had that strong desire to be plugged into the rest of the world. And I also know that you can't rely on, people on Chinese internet to translate things for you, because if you control the language, if you control the translation, you control the information, because you can just translate stuff away and you can just omit something or not translate it the precise meaning. And I didn't trust other people and other sources, so I wanted to learn it myself. So I have a very strong motive, And how I learned it was, keep up everything that's going on in English classes at school. They do teach you grammars and everything, but I've always been horrible at it. You can probably tell I've probably made like a lot of grammatical errors already. But I also like to watch obviously a lot of TV shows, movies. I enjoy the plot, but I also take note on how they pronounce words, the slangs that they use, the vocabularies that they use, and I will, when I'm by myself, I will like sort of act it out on my own. It's like very awkward. That's why
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why I do it when I'm on my own, and I'll like sort of, even if I can like actually speak it out, I'll sort of play it in my head, imagining I'm this character in this show. Yeah, and I know a lot of people do that, surprisingly, and I think that's like the best way to do it. Yeah, that's pretty much how, and I also did make a point to write down the new vocabularies that I encountered, because that's just more efficient if you can just pile up what you don't know in one place and just review them from time to time. Yeah.
So Helen, you mentioned just now that you don't trust any translations of things from English done by someone else because they might lie. And just from dealing with you, I know that you always, at the back of your head, wonder if someone is lying, especially if they're an official source or if they're a scholarly source. And I think that also means that you have to spend a lot more time thinking things through or double checking things. So how do you deal with learning if you should trust someone or not? And how does that affect you now in a more high trust society where we expect people to tell the truth, though we also know that they don't normally do that? But
yeah, can I ask you a question first? Do you
Sure.
do you still think America right now is a high trust society when it comes to like online sources like news articles or people's trust?
I think we are actively changing from a high trust society to a lower trust society.
Yeah.
I think there have been several incidents that made people lose trust, and some of us are still going on with the assumptions that made more sense in a high trust society.
Yeah.
And we need to regain that trust if we want to continue.
And people with bad intentions probably take advantage of the fact that it's traditionally a high trust society.
I've heard that there are more con artists in Canada than there are in China.
What's con artist?
Someone who tries to take your money by they're the guys who phone you up and tell you that your car insurance for a car you didn't know you had is due.
Do you know there's a full industry chain among like Chinese speaking people? Like they don't usually operate in mainland China. They're usually in
Laos
or
those fake casinos in Laos.
Or like Myanmar, is that a country?
Yes, that's a country.
Yeah, Myanmar, that's how you pronounce it. It's like a whole industry. People speak Chinese that is dedicated to fraud international students. I mean Chinese students in English speaking countries like America and UK. I personally was this close to being frauded against. So that's such a good example.
How did they try to defraud you?
This is such a tangent, but basically they call me and say my name and my most commonly used email address, and said my Chinese official ID or passport was found in an airport in mainland China, and says it was found in a suitcase that belonged to a high profile money laundering criminal. And then you're like, well, this is nonsense because I have my ID, it's right here, like I have my passport. And they're like, well, it seems like your information has been stolen. But so they're calling you as if they're the police. So their position is, okay, we're just telling you this, but you're technically a suspect of a large-scale money laundering criminal case. So they have the attitude of, we might not trust you, like you're technically a suspect, so we're kind of interrogating you and you're under our mercy, even they know full well that, you know, obviously they're frauding you, this is all BS, but
something designed to put you on the back foot
exactly, so that you are uncomfortable and you are like want to beg them for mercy.
And then they try to keep you awake for long periods of time because sleep deprivation makes you pliant.
Yeah, they want me to be on a Zoom call with them 24/7. And the first thing they told me is to delete apps like Google and Red. And looking back, it's because
they don't want you looking up.
Yeah, and it's also because a lot of people like me, like studying abroad, are sharing their experience on these type of phone calls. So they don't want me to scrolling those information. Yeah, they want me to be isolated. And they also don't want me to contact my family. That's why they want to monitor my screen at all times. But anyway, that's just such a good example of a low trust society. Like even just I saw this post on Red the other day, Red the app, that a person took a picture of a old man or a woman, I couldn't tell, like they trip and fell on the street, and he's like, well, this old man has been lying here for 20 minutes. Should I come up and help him? Like in the comment section, people are like, maybe not, just call the police. Because so many, yeah, you know why.
Well, wasn't there a court case in China a few years ago where somebody came up and helped someone else who was hurting, and the judge decided that it must have been their fault that they were in pain? I forget if it was a car accident or if it was someone hurt by the side of the road, but the judge decided that if you came up and helped them, it must be because you had a guilty conscience.
Yeah.
I believe that's been repealed recently, but
yeah, I don't know, but that sounds like something that the court system would do in China.
It also strikes me that putting people on the back foot emotionally and then making them not sleep, like what that con artist did to you, is great if you're trying to start a cult. Can we contact these guys and start a cult? I'd love to be a cult leader.
Yeah.
Can we?
I know that they have like word by word guidebook in front of them when they're making these calls. So if the person you're trying to fraud say something, and they can usually find the exact line and look at the exact response that you should say. So they are like masters of psychology. Yeah. But speaking, I'm trying to circle back to our topic because you keep derailing us.
I just want to be a cult leader.
Anyway, where were we? The high trust, low trust.
High trust, low trust.
Yeah. So yeah, fast forward. Now I'm here. Anytime I see any sort of conspiracy theories, which is hard to define these days, but I'm just gonna go with it. Like anytime I see sort of a conspiracy theory, I tend to believe it. I'm like, hey, I have a natural distrust on the government because that's what, you know, growing up in China taught me. And why should I think human nature works differently here just because, you know, they speak English, they're white, they're black, you know, it's all human. But what I do trust is checks and balance. So like media should be and has been the fourth branch, right? So yeah, like if you're like a, I don't know, public figure, or you're in some sort of controversies and you have something to explain, just come out and explain it. Don't just, I don't know, call people's names, say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. So
If I wanted to gain your trust, how would I do that? What's the fastest way to gain your trust specifically?
like, who are you? Like, are you just saying?
I'm some rando.
I was about to say that, like, I feel like the sentiment right now is towards, say, legacy media and public figures and public agencies. People have like a low trust trend, but we still live our lives, right? Like daily life, go to groceries or whatever. I think among like normal daily interaction with people around you, I would say it's still like a pretty high trust place. So it really depends on who you are. Like if you're someone I know, like you're my friend, you're my acquaintance, I'm not like that. Yeah, I think my suspicion is mostly for like the government and media or people in power. I think for them, if they want to gain my trust, you pretty much just have to answer every reasonable question that I or other, people post at you. What about you? Like, where are you at in the public trust? And how do you think like your education experience affected that, if any?
Well, that's an in-depth question. There's actually two questions.
Yeah.
So, growing up, I was taught a bit of source criticism by my mom. I haven't been very rigorous in applying it, I'm afraid. Most of the time, I just try to figure out what belief system the person speaking has, and I listen to why they say they believe what they believe. And it's hard sometimes because sometimes people don't believe things for the reason that even they think they believe them. I mean, we can always say that we've come to something by reasoning it out, but usually we just believe something because people we trust in our tribe believe it, and we see no reason to disagree. So most of the time, I look for slants and just think, okay, where is a place that this person is probably accurate, and where is a place where they might have a blind side? And it doesn't always work out very well for me because my opinion of them is not the same as who they really are. So I mostly just no problems with my own approach, I'm afraid. But what else? Now, tell me, my love, as after you graduate law school, how do I help motivate you?
Food.
Okay, that works.
No, in all seriousness, I think it's that vision or motive thing again that I was talking about. You could probably see how excited I was every time we sort of like plan our future, or me looking on Zillow and see like what kind of apartment we might be able to be at, and even just or be on LinkedIn or Indeed and see, oh, if I pass the bar and if I try hard, this is the kind of job that I can get, and we could afford to live in this economy with a newborn. So I think like talking about those things, like visualize them, see where we are going. Just knowing that tomorrow is gonna be better than today, or where we're gonna try to be is gonna be a lot better than what we have right now is my motivation. And isn't that just everybody? Like, don't everybody want to fight for a better future, like economic wise, for your family, and also like be closer to your friends and family?
True.
So yeah.
But what is your plan for being better at looking into things you are curious about, even if you don't see an immediate use? I'm not saying that there won't ever be a use. I love things that are useful, but
yeah. I honestly don't have an answer. Like, if I have a good answer, I would probably be doing that right now. But my immediate reaction is, oh, maybe you should force me to do it. But then it wouldn't be so voluntarily, wouldn't it? Like, I was thinking, oh, I need my mom. Like, I need my mom to tell me, go do this, go do that. Like, go do this thing that you really enjoy.
Perhaps I should try motivating you with sweets. That doesn't work. You don't like sweets.
I like boba.
It's hard to keep a stash of in a pantry somewhere.
That's true. But yeah, I think it's an ongoing problem that I have. Yeah. You wouldn't think you struggle with that, right? Like, if you say you enjoy walking, you do it constantly. You don't struggle with like doing it, or
walking is a habit that I developed as a teenager, and now it's simply something that I do to calm down, and it's something I try to do every day, and it's something I have become so used to that I am not used to not doing it. So I've simply trained myself to do it, and it's more comfortable. I don't need to exert myself for that.
That's true. But like, I guess we're more talking about, say, something more mind engaging, but could also be potentially a little boring, like reading a book or writing something, coding.
I still get distracted all the time. I sit down and try to think about something else. Look up the news one more time. I still do all those things. It helps that many of my ideas are things I'm genuinely excited about that I think are relevant in the future, similar to what you said.
Yeah.
But also some of them just are things that I think are interesting. Less now that I have a lot more responsibilities, but growing up, if I asked my mom a question, she had a bad habit of getting a bunch of books out of the library on it. It also helps that I like to read a lot of science fiction and fantasy growing up, especially things where the magic seemed to follow a logical pattern, which is why I loved Brandon Sanderson's books. And I don't know, I liked seeing things that to me seemed counterintuitive. I liked understanding them. It helped that I liked stories that were about understanding things that were counterintuitive.
Yeah. And just to like tie it back to where we started, and you had bigger chunks of time growing up.
I did.
And you were like, you were not discouraged, let's say, to you read a fantasy novel that's like, age appropriate. Right?
Correct.
And you have, again, like longer chunks of time to have that flow that I was talking about, to really get into a book.
I did.
Yeah.
Less as I got older.
Yeah, yes. Same. Yeah. I think that's just so valuable. And like for me, I also had experience like that. I remember on weekends when I was in elementary school, I'll read books that my mom got me or the school assigned us, but just as like a, optional thing that you can do. And I remember deeply like, enjoying many of them, but that was just such a short period of time. I think around like fourth grade to sixth grade, which is last year of elementary school, and then boom, middle school happened, and then there was like no time doing any of the leisure reading. Um, so I think after graduating high school, I slowly realized how much I wish I could replicate that feeling I had when I was in elementary school, where I don't think like a monster is chasing me all the time from behind. Like you have to do math, you have to do this homework. Um, where I could just sit down and want to enjoy a book and get into the flow of it. Yeah, I think that's like a good example of what I was talking about earlier, how my education experience, since middle school sort of ruined a lot of things for me, and I wish I could have it back, but I need to train myself to have it back.
And I'm sure you will.
Thank you.